Michael Cahill is out of the Tipperary team because of injury. Shane McGrath comes in but will start at midfield. Kieran Bergen drops back to the right wing and Cahill Barrett now starts in the left corner. Conor McCormick and David Tracy are late additions to the Dublin side. Joey Boland drops out of midfield and Dotsie O'Callaghan is out of the full forward line. Niall Corcoran is in for Paul Schutte, who's injured. A place in the semi-finals up for grabs and a place against Cork. Dublin looking for the first point in this All-Ireland quarter-final, bearing down and firing that over, and they have the first point, and it's Danny Sutcliffe who puts Dublin in front. Nobody near him.
Danny Sutcliffe has started at centre forward there, and Alan McCrabb will be moving around, as Eddie Brennan said beforehand. He's more effective out the field.
Here's Lar Corbett, wonderful first touch from Corbett, and that looks good if it has the legs. It looks fantastic. It is fantastic from Lar Corbett. He barely had time to have a glance at the post, and from a massive distance out, Tipperary draw level, one each. Alan Nolan, Ryan O'Dwyer got a stick on that. Johnny McCaffrey ran away from him and from Danny Sutcliffe. Now it's James Woodlock of Tipperary has Ryan O'Dwyer in tow, and O'Dwyer managed to put him under pressure. Lar Corbett from the other wing on this occasion has scored one brilliant point. Now you can make that two, and his eye is very definitely in. Two stunners from Lar Corbett.
Yeah, great play again. Look where he is, right out in the middle of the field. Niall Corcoran has been picked obviously to man mark Lar Corbett, and that's not going well so far.
And now it's Liam Rush with Bonner-Marr. Liam Rush, such a powerful man physically. Bonner-Marr isn't exactly a shrinking violet either. Now Ryan O'Dwyer from the Tipperary 65-metre line, and O'Dwyer has fired that one over, and that should give them a boost. Starting to hurl, trailing by a point. Tipperary leading by 5-4, and Ryan O'Dwyer, his confidence will be up after that.
Great play by Liam Rush there before that, and John McCaffrey slipped on a nice simple hand pass, and a good score by Dublin.
And now it's 2 against 2. Shane Durkin lost the flight of that. Peter Kelly is out. Liam Rush is there with him, and Rush is the free man and gets Dublin going forward again. Distance on the ball. Conor McCormick attempting to get involved. James Barry is there as well. And Barry with that glove on his left hand with a good clearance for Tipperary. Up towards Lar Corbett, who never actually got there because Seamus Callan was there instead. Callan from a tricky angle has got that one. Lovely point from Seamus Callan. Dublin on the attack. Tipperary, very quick counter. Lovely score from Callan, first from play.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference. You know, it's clear there so far. And again, the Dublin forwards' first touch is not up to the same standard as the Tipperary players.
Now it's John O'Dwyer. They say he is the best wrists in the county. Shane McGrath running straight into Shane Durkin. McGrath from the sideline. That is gorgeous. Some of their points today have been absolutely superb, and we've only been playing for 21 minutes. Tipped by 9-4.
Great play by John O'Dwyer, but Shane McGrath, you know, probably not happy about being left out of the starting team until Michael Cahill's injury allowed him back in, and that's a super score by him, and that reflects, I think, Tip's dominance. You know, they've gone 5 points up now, and they're all over Dublin at the moment.
They do have the wind. James Woodlock and the Bonner-Marr. Their tails up, the confidence is high, and the Bonner-Marr running straight at Dublin. Opens up for Marr! Just wide. That could have gone anywhere. Lar Corbett out after it. David Tracy was there as well. Johnny McCaffrey. Michael Carton seems to have switched wings with Stephen Heine, who's now at left half back. Now 2 Dublin players, and it was only James Barry there. Opportunities for Dublin, need a score, and they've got a score. Very tidy point. Johnny McCaffrey.
Yeah, and that was made again with great ball by Danny Sutcliffe again. Great running by Johnny McCaffrey off the ball here, and you see he cuts back inside and over the bar, and that's a great response by Dublin. That's 2 points in a row now. It's
all about intensity and work rate and energy, and that was strangely absent against Kilkenny. Alan Nolan to Michael Carton, who's settled in at right half back, and Carton goes route 1. Conal Keeney soaring up after it. Dotsie O'Callaghan has got it for Dublin. Possibilities for them here. He lost it. Great pick up by David Tracy. Tracy spinning, turning and scoring, and that is a lovely point for David Tracy and for Dublin. 4 behind.
Yeah, it's a great pick-up and a great score, but there was a great chance of a goal there. Dottie O'Callaghan dropped the ball when really all he had to do was carry it another yard and give the hand pass, but good score.
Another 90 seconds of the first half to go, and that is Garrod Ryan, and that's gone over. And is this starting to drift away from Dublin, even though they're going to have the wind in the second half? But Tipperary finding it easy going now. Dublin with the wind, and it is a strong enough wind. Stephen Heine surrounded Bonner-Marr for Tipperary. Michael Carton behind him. They've cut them open already. Here come Tipperary. Seamus Calnan juggling with it, put under serious pressure. Garrod Ryan now. First point of the second half is Tipperary's. Second for Garrod Ryan.
Yeah, good work there by Seamus Calnan. Again, Liam Rush did very well to stay with him. A lovely hand pass out there, and Garrod Ryan stepped back inside.
Only 1 point from play in the second half. Liam Rush firing that up. Nice pick up from Paul Ryan. Is this the moment it finally comes to life? Ryan flicks it back in. Doxy O'Callaghan for Dublin, dragged down. Free in, I think, is the decision. Or it's a penalty. No, he's given a penalty. He pointed towards the goal, Brian Gavin. Cathal Barrett, the player who dragged Dotsy O'Callaghan back. Now, Dublin had a penalty early in the Leinster final, and Conal Keaney put it over the bar. This has got to go low.
This will be low. Paul Ryan will probably take it, I'd imagine. Lovely bit of play there by Paul Ryan. I thought he could have had a shot himself, but you can see there Dotsy held up by Cathal Barrett.
This to put new life into their challenge for a place in the All-Ireland semi-final. Paul Ryan of Dublin drills it. It's been saved, but Keaney's in after it. It's put over for a point. Conal Keaney put it over for a point. They get something out of it, I suppose. And now there's a bit of noise around Semple Stadium.
Yeah, nice height, good save there by Brendan Maher. Keaney came in and took it well, and he was unlucky, hit the top of the crossbar. I thought, Ryan, you're very hard to generate power with just a very short step up like that. Maybe we should have gone back another yard and put more drive into the ball, but good save.
Now Dennis Marr's in. Two players run off it. Noel McGrath's taken up a really good position. They've cut Dublin open again. 4 against 2. Goal chance. O'Dwyer's got it. John O'Dwyer. Dublin switched off, and that blue and gold wave tore them asunder. Tipperary have made their move, and is that the move that takes them back to Croke Park?
Well, you can imagine so, but James Woodlock, lovely little flick in there to Seamus Callan, but the whole thing opened up, and Callan very unselfish into John O'Dwyer. Lovely goal by Tipperary, but that's been threatening for some time. You know, they've had a lot of room there every time they've run at Dublin in the second half.
Peter Kelly. Eamon Dillon. Oh, that could be very nice, and is, from Eamon Dillon. Excellent score. Better.
Yeah, super take out of the air there by Eamon Dillon, and he checked back inside and off his left side. Great score.
Fires it forward. Paul Ryan, lovely interplay. Is there some end product? Paul Ryan over the shoulder. Tester for Gleeson. Almost, but Tipperary managed somehow to keep the ball out. Padraig Marr held up, free out Tipperary. And somehow they managed to stop this going into the back of the net. Who got the crucial touch to keep it out?
Darren Gleeson, in fairness, kept his eye on the ball, and he batted it out there. Good stop.
Inside the last 10 minutes in Thurles, Tipperary in charge. Cork waiting in the All-Ireland semi-final. Padraig Marr furious that nobody competed with, or Anthony Daly furious that nobody competed with Marr in the air. Here is Seamus Callan. They could be in for another goal. Callan steadies down, point the result. That was just too easy for Tipperary. Pulling away again.
Yeah, that was a great take by Seamus Callan. First of all, Padraig Maher played a good ball into him, but just stood up Peter Kelly, and lovely score. And you know, they've had a good battle all through, but Callan playing very well again today.
Here's the Bonner-Marr, and this is where he absolutely thrives, running straight at Dublin. Nobody home. Bonner-Marr, great save from Nolan. O'Dwyer though adds the finishing touch, and it's Tipperary who will play Cork in the All-Ireland semi-final. We've had that feeling for quite a while. but John O'Dwyer with his second goal of the second half just puts the icing on the cake. Owen Kelly's in, Tipperary on their way.
Yeah, and that's what Tip have been doing. Brilliant save there by Alan Nolan, first of all. But look at that for a finish by John O'Dwyer. Textbook, lovely strike, great technique, and fantastic game he's had at corner forward today. But Tipperary have opened up Dublin throughout the second half, and those goals were inevitable at some stage.
And their meeting with Cork will be something to be behold. Here goes Liam Rush, furthest forward we've seen him in the entire game, and it's a bit late now for Dublin at this stage. Their race, long run, trailing by 7 at half-time. They didn't get the start to the second half they wanted, and Liam Rush just chips that over the bar for their 16th point of the game. And that is really that. John O'Dwyer's 2 goals, 2 massive highlights in the second half, but it's Tipperary, and from half-time it looked like it was always going to be Tipperary. Tipperary, the feeling with them that there's much more to come. We'll find out the next day. They have beaten Dublin by 2-23 to 16 points.
We're pleased to get the win, I suppose, but lots to work on as always. You know, after every performance you look at it and there'll be good things that you did and obviously things that we can work on, so lots to work on now for the next 3 weeks. It's our first time in Croke Park since 2012, so we can't get complacent. We're after winning a few games, we have a small bit of momentum. We're delighted with the win, but there's nothing won yet.
You know, we're probably ranked 4 of the four teams, so you know we have a lot of work to do. But being there is just a joy for the boys. So I'm very happy for them because you know they're taking some criticism, but we've got there. But that's not good enough.
Came to try and win an All-Ireland quarter-final today. You know, there's plenty of time over the next couple of weeks to ponder the future. You know, I would never make a decision based on like because you don't think about that coming into a game like this. You're just totally focused on trying to get a result, and you're not in a proper position to make that call. But look, maybe it is time to let somebody else at it. We'd see over the next couple of weeks.
All right, tough day for Anthony Daly and Ger Loughnane. I'm not sure what's the bigger talking point for today. Was it the ease of Tipperary's victory or Dublin failing to fire again?
Well, I don't know, it was a tough day for everybody, even people watching, not to talk of people involved in the game, but it's very hard to know what to make of Dublin after this year. I think, you know, I think it's really the end of the road for this Dublin team because, you know, having performed so badly in the Leinster final, you think today they'd come out and they'd really tear into the game and close down Tipperary, and even if they weren't as good as them skill-wise, at least they would match them in terms of, you know, their teamwork and their physicality. But overall, you know, they were so listless from the start, and they allowed Tipperary so much space, and their lack of quality. We'll talk later on about their lack of ability, but I don't mind lack of ability, but a lack of real application is what Dublin lacked today. You know, and they allowed Tipperary that space that they love, and when Tip get that space, they really punish you. So a terribly disappointing day and a terribly disappointing year for Dublin. You know,
is lack of ability too harsh a term?
Yeah, I don't think it gives any of us great joy because you've kind of got a stereotypical view that exists out there in some parts that, you know, Dublin are always made hurlers. I never bought into that. But today, there was a serious gulf in class in terms of hurling ability. And some of the clips that we're going to show you here now is going to try and highlight that. One of the first clips we look at is that Shane McGrath, who was very good for Tipperary today, coming instead of Michael Cal. Look at Lark Corbett, the touch here on the run. You know, one touch into the hand, on the move. So great ease. Here we see John O'Dwyer getting onto the ball, and again with great ease. The one thing about all the Tipperary forwards is they can all hurl, and Tipperary are natural hurlers, and that's what they love. Here again, Shane McGrath gets possession. Beautiful stick work onto John O'Dwyer again, and with great ease over the bar. And here, if you like, sums it all up. James Woodlock, terrific pass onto Seamus Callanan. Again onto John O'Dwyer. I wouldn't underestimate the amount of work he did, a bit like Paddy O'Sullivan last week. You need to be a natural hurler to be able to do that, and that was a big difference between both teams.
Yeah, and here you have the other side of it, you know, because even if you haven't Tipperary's risk, you know, when you're in a quarter-final, your touch must be a razor sharp. Now look at Peter Kelly there. That was his second time doing that today. Stephen Heine here, a ball all in his own, inside the 50-yard line. You know, it's a simple point for the taking, and if he doesn't take it, you know, Danny Sutcliffe is inside the edge of the square. Now, can you imagine if Bubbles the Wire got that and Lark Corbett at the edge of the square, the ball would be inside him. Now, you know, Dublin relied an awful lot on getting the ball down to us Conor Keeley today. They banked on him on winning that possession, but again, like when the pressure was on, Conor didn't come up with anything today. A lot of turnover ball on his wing. He was beaten numerous times, and even here at the very end, at the penalty when they got the chance. Now, you couldn't see a Tipperary player missing a chance like that. 5 yards out, a flick of the wrist. Now, I know he caught it in his wrong hand.
And there's players coming at him.
Well, but when Bubbles, when you have a real top-class forward and players coming at him, he can still get that stroke. Now, you think of Dublin in the Leinster final. They got 2 chances like that as well. But, the wide swing, they just haven't got that flick of the wrist, that kind of wrist work that you associate with the Noel McGraths, the Bubbles of the Wires of this world. And without that, I doubt very much if they'll win in All-Ireland.
It's a bit depressing on a few levels, maybe, being in Dublin, because they have had underage success. They've had minor success, they've had under-21 success.
Yeah, they've had underage success, but where are the players then? Are the players going playing football? It looks very much as if they are, and I think there's
Well, some of their top young forwards have gone playing football.
Yeah, you look like the Cormac Costello. I think Dublin have a big philosophical question to answer in terms of, these guys are playing all the way up to minor. Are they taking the place of a player who they could be developing for the top grade? And if I was the person in charge, I'd be asking young lads at minor level, do you want to play hurling or do you want to play football?
Yeah. Well, you see, the problem is 10 of the team that started today, they're with Anthony Daly since he started. That's 6 years ago. So, there are very few players of quality have come through from the underage structure. So,
and
massive investment.
Not that he hasn't looked at them.
Not that he hasn't looked at them and wouldn't recognise them. You take Tommy Dunn, Richard Statham, they'd recognise anybody. If they were there, they'd be on. Now, when you take the massive investment, financial investment that has been in Dublin, and only how little has come through. Danny Sutcliffe, is really the only class forward, the class player that has come through in that 6 years.
That's right. And it sends out a very bad message as well to the other kids who are coming along. And whilst it'd be lovely if players were able to play both, the reality is that they're choosing football in Dublin, and it's a romantic idea that whoever's in control at minor level has to have them playing both codes.
But can I ask you this? Say the under-15 development squad or 16, should they be hurlers only, or should a dual player, a young lad, be allowed to play both games at that age?
I think if a young lad wants to play football, you have to let him play football for his club especially.
But what if he wants to play both?
But if it's for the county, there is no hope that he can play both for the county, that he cannot develop to his full potential as a hurler. If you're coming up, a young lad in Kilkenny, who you'll be playing if you're an inter-county hurler, he's devoting no time to football. He's devoting all his time to hurling. So do you think, if you give half your time to football and half your time to hurling, seeing that you're starting from a low base anyway, that you're going to match that Kilkenny fella when you come to 19 or 20? You haven't got a hope.
And that's reality. There's Kilkenny are the benchmark for these guys, and like I said, it's romantic, but...
Is it another nail in the dual player though, Donald?
It's this competition, it's elite sport, and you can play both. Of course you can play both. You could play 4 or 5 sports, but you can't tell me that you're going to maximise your potential in either by trying to serve 2 such demanding masters.
That's exactly the point. You cannot maximise your potential. And if you take even one of the stars of last year for Clare, Podge Collins. Now, why was he so good for Clare last year? Because any time he wasn't training with the team, he was out on his own practicing hurling with maybe 100 balls on his own, hitting them from all over the field. So look at the way he played. Now, this year, he concentrates, he does half and half, and he ends up with nothing. Yeah. He isn't half the player, the hurler he was last year. So it is you can do it, but you will not be, how could you possibly be as effective if you just concentrate on one? And remember, all of the strong football counties, they will put the gun to the players' heads and say, if you play hurling, you will not play football for the county. So the hurling people have got to stand up and do the same thing and say, this is the way. We'll develop from 15, 16 onwards. If you concentrate on hurling, we'll give you all the attention and all the help we can. Yeah. But if you don't, better choose the football now.
Yeah, well, in fairness, Brian Cuthbert, for instance, allows the lads to play dual, but it's abroad. I take the point you're making.
But he's actually reviewing that as well at the end of the year.
I bet he is. There was one key turning point you felt in the game, despite the fact that maybe Tipperary had better touch.
Yeah, there was a couple of turning points, and this was one key one, like you said. There's Danny Sutcliffe, one of the few Dublin forwards that that you would hold on to and see good potential for. That was a big chance that he could have, if he took that. It was Tipperary were winning 11 points to 7 at that stage. That could have made it 11-8, but actually Tipperary outscored Dublin from that point on until the end of the second half, 4-1.
Until the end of the first half, yeah.
To the first half. So it actually went in 15 points to 8. And you can see with the scoring chart here, if you look at just after the 30 minutes period, that was definitely a turning point.
So
and a pity for Danny. It was a great flick back. He's a class hurler, class forward. Like I said, one of the few Dublin forwards that if I was in charge of Dublin that I'd be holding on to. But it was a big miss.
Okay. All right, so in fairness to Tipperary, impressive all round, much the better team, score 223, but Jerry, you still feel there's areas for improvement in attack?
Well, you see, there are still question marks about our defence, but that wasn't tested today, you know, so we can only look at the attack today and how that might improve, because they have beautiful movement, as Don Lowe showed there early on. Now, they have a terrible weakness all the time in the air. You know, they had this back from 2009, 2010 as well, and they found the other ways around it. They have so few forwards who can actually win ball in the air that it's, you know, it's amazing they're putting up such massive scores. But if you take like 223, 525, 325, you can't quibble with that. But at the same time, how much more effective they would be if they had players, more players who could win the ball in the air, because this is the one man who can, Bonham Maher. And he's also the one player from Tipperary who can take on his man and go straight for goal. He's able to get past, to break that tackle, get past the man and go straight for goal. But like, they are over-reliant on him. What about if he's man-marked one day, if he's held? Who is going to create the openings then? You know, and from now on, they're going to meet better players. They're going to meet better defenders. They will not be allowed that amount of space that they were given today. And maybe that's the reason why they lost so many tight matches. When the games became scraps against Limerick earlier on this year, against Kilkenny in the league, when it became a scrap and you had to win your own ball, they just weren't able to do it. You know, it's a fault that hasn't showed up in the last 3 games, but as you go on, it will be exposed.
All right, well, they have 3 weeks to prepare for that big semi-final. Here's confirmation. Tipperary now play Cork in the first ever championship clash between the sides in Croke Park.
No, they have all the tools required to win the All-Ireland, but they will have to improve their defence as well. I think that'll be when that's tested. It hasn't been tested yet in the last 3 matches, but it will be tested the next day.
Okay, it'll be interesting stuff. All right, time for our man of the match from today, Ger. Who are the nominees?
Well, the nominees are, you know, I suppose, no surprise, they're all Tipperary. You know, John O'Dwyer, a terrific game in the forwards for Tip. Shane McGrath, who I thought had his best game for Tip since 2010. Really, really impressed by him at midfield. And of course, our friend Bonham Maher, who's always nominated for nearly every game, but he's the man around whom the whole forward line operates.
All right, and Dunlow, who wins the award?
There's John O'Dwyer, exemplifies everything that's good about Tipperary hurling, not only in the current era, but down throughout the history of the game. Class hurler, great risks, pure hurling.
All right. Congrats to John then. Let's hear from the man from Killinall.
Look, we went out hoping to get a good, fast start, you know, and just thankfully the breaks at the start of the game went for us, and we kind of died off there about 10 minutes to go in the second half, in the first half, sorry, and then we picked it up again in the second half, and thankfully we came away with the win. Cork, near neighbours, we always like playing each other. Be a good, tough game, and hopefully we'll be the best team and we'll come out on top.
And I won't betray you and tell everybody what the bubbles means on your shirt. Congratulations. We'll stick with John O'Dwyer, who is the centre or team man of the match, and John Carroll from Centre is here to give you your award.